Lord for Cameron F1 knows not what he does. We are about to get very techie, guys and girls, because this has been an interesting 24 hours just gone in the weird and wacky world that is F1 now. There's been some things. Go on then, let's talk about them. Brett, Jay, Chris, I hope you're all good. And looking forward to what hopefully should be an interesting. Oh, and you guys can't even see me, of course. What is going on? Right. Take a breather, Cam. Oh, you guys can see me. Technical difficulties. Did you hear me at the outset? Forgive him, Lord, for he knows not what he does. That Cameron F1 fella. We're about to get techie, though. Because in the past 24 hours, a couple of things have happened that have gone undiscussed. And they are Fernando Alonso's comments about Lewis Hamilton not getting a penalty since he's not Spanish. The incident between one Fernando Alonso, one Lance Stroll and Lewis Hamilton that affected, negatively impacting one Lando Norris. The comments about the Miami Grand Prix and the onboard of Max Verstappen's pole. Let's get to this in first priority order. Because Fernando Alonso said something on the zone in Spanish that I think merits discussion here. Very, very techie. We touched on it very briefly yesterday on the stream. He said something to the effect that Lewis, on the incident in turn 1 in yesterday's sprint race, that Lewis Hamilton will not receive a penalty from the FIA by virtue of the fact that he's not Spanish. Evocative, any Fernando Alonso. Polemic, controversial, all of the aforementioned, methinks. Now, why is Fernando saying that? And is there just cause for him to say that? So to the first, I think Fernando Alonso feels victimised. I think he does feel victimised from the FIA. He's had a couple penalties of late, hasn't he? And I feel like he thought that on the back of the turn 1 incident, he felt a bit vulnerable. What he doesn't want to do as a first order priority, he doesn't want to come together with the boss's son. And I think on the back of the interaction, the cheeky love tap, he was concerned that he was going to get victimised, blamed and scapegoated as far as the internal Aston Martin politics were. And I think he has cause to be concerned. If we're just taking the incident in isolation, it was Silverstone 2021 all of a sudden, wasn't it? Because everyone went in hot. It was lap 1, turn 1. It's a sprint race. We all know the risk and reward. If you don't make it stick, turn 1, lap 1, a sprint race around the Miami track that is very difficult, near impossible to overtake around, then you're going to be stuck in a Jarno Trulli or Nico K-Mag trolley train. It's going to be DRS Central, right? You're not going to be able to get round anybody. And that's what ensued on the next 19 laps. So you get the risk. You get why Lewis was steaming up the inside, why Alonso was super too late on the brakes. You'll understand. It makes sense in that context. But that's why Fernando Alonso went quickly, ultra defensive, right? Circled the wagons ASAP. Didn't want to get in trouble courtesy of Lawrence Stroll, the head honcho, because he crashed his son. Quick to point the blame at Lewis Hamilton. In fact, testament to Fernando Alonso's race savvy and 200 IQ in real time. Speed that Lewis Hamilton came up his inside, he was able to identify that was Lewis Hamilton. Houseway, the dude is god tier. Now, I disagree with his assertion that this was Lewis Hamilton's fault, wholly attributable to. That's not the case, Fernando. There were 2 tiers, 2 legs to this first lap turn 1 incident, weren't there, Fernando? Let's be honest, man from Oviedo, Asturias. Let's be real for a second. The first one was an innocent, understeery love tap that you caused. Lance Stroll had given you enough room had you maintained 100% control of the car. So that was the first leg of the incident. And for me, racing incident, lap 1, turn 1 tax. But Fernando Alonso is wholly attributable. The blame and the culpability is that of the man from Oviedo Asturias, 100%. Take that to the bank. But the second leg, there was one Lewis Hamilton steaming up the inside of turn one, and he too carried too much pace and underbraked. He outbraked himself, didn't he? Understeered into Fernando Alonso. Now, it wasn't a massive incident, but sadly for one Lando Norris of McLaren, the domino effect was that Lewis love-tapped Alonso, who in turn love-tapped his teammate Lance Stroll, who in turn love-tapped Lando Norris, who had pulled the overtaking manoeuvre around the outside. Now, we can question Lando's racecraft, whether he should have given more room. Of course, it's turn one, lap one, so hindsight is always a wonderful thing. You'll remember that last race, something similar happened, and maybe one Lando Norris needs to be just a little less naive. Maybe baking a little bit more wiggle room. I was having a conversation with a well-known journalist earlier, and I liken Lando Norris to a W15 chassis, right? Super high and narrow, peaky performance curve, but doesn't adapt his driving style for the drivers and the circumstance around him. If you know that's Lance Stroll on your inside, then surely give him some more room now. Do you know what I mean, visual? Surely just give him just a little bit more room, knowing that that's Lance Stroll and it's turn one, lap one, sprint race. But I digress. The comments in question were techie from Fernando Alonso. He took aim at the FIA and Lewis Hamilton, claiming victim, saying that because Lewis Hamilton isn't Spanish, he will get away with murder. And ultimately, for that incident, Lewis Hamilton did get away with it. He got a pit lane penalty later on in the race, which I think was justified. I don't know what Lewis was doing in the pits. Again, there was a safety car, so I think that played into it. He was doing one of these A signs to the pit crew, maybe a little bit distracted. He was going too fast ultimately in the pits under safety car circumstance. And for that, I think Lewis Hamilton absolutely deserved the penalty. For the racing incident turn one, I don't think he deserved the penalty. But Alonso's comments were deeper than that, because it was victimhood. It was woe is me. It was prejudice. It was reminiscent of Lewis Hamilton's 2007, 2008 comments when he said, well, maybe the stewards are punishing me. Maybe I'm being victimised because I'm black. Not the same, but very bloody similar. You can draw parallels between the two instances, right, and the two comments. And I just don't know where to take this. If you wanted to say, Fernando, that you've gotten a lot of penalties recently, then that's a different story. But to claim that you've been victimised, what? And that Lewis Hamilton has been given the golden child treatment. Behave yourself, Fernando. What are you talking about? The latter is absolutely not true. If there is chance to give Lewis Hamilton a penalty, they'll give it to him. What, the FIA? Victimise Lewis. You guys remember Jewelry Gate. You guys remember crossing the bloody track gate. Each and every single time they can give Lewis a penalty, they'll give him one. The FIA, I'm not having that from Fernando. Whether he feels like he's been victimised is different. And the fact that he said Spanish, what is he lumping Carlos Sainz into that? Has Carlos Sainz been victim to lots of penalties courtesy of the FIA? I don't know what he's on about, mate. Controversial statement from Fernando. I think what he means to say is that Lewis is privileged as far as how the FIA look down upon him. I think that's where he was going with that statement, but he's kind of lost it. But then, you know what? I'm doing Alonso a bit of a disservice, because normally he doesn't mince his words. He doesn't miss, does he? He's quite accurate and precise with his words, probably more so than he is with his racecraft on track. Even so, maybe he meant what he said, and I'm doing him a disservice. Maybe he's saying that the FIA do treat Spanish drivers harshly, him in particular. And I think that needs some due diligence, you know. I don't think you can just take that and run with it. Many people in the F1 space like to throw out these throwaway comments without fact checking. I don't think that's true, Fernando. When last did Fernando Alonso get a penalty that he didn't deserve? I mean, there was talk even recently of Mohammed Ben Sulayem trying to bend the rules to ensure that at Saudi Arabia this time last year that he didn't get a penalty that took away his podium position. So what are we talking about? If anything, Fernando, that the evidence in real time speaks to the opposite. It's the antithesis of what Fernando's saying? Now, one journo quoted a conversation that Mohammed Ben Sulayem had with Fernando Alonso as recently as the last Grand Prix, where Fernando was saying similar things. Just give me equal treatment, Fernando says. So this isn't the first time he's saying this, and I just think it's interesting. I think it's worthy of discussion, this. I just didn't know that this was a thing, genuinely. And it's interesting, again, the subjectivity of the thing, because if you talk to different people, different F1 demographics, if you talk to Britain and Lewis Hamilton fans, they feel like Lewis Hamilton is always getting victimised. Australia wasn't deserved, nor China. You reckon, Visual? Is he onto something, Visual? Maybe he's onto something. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you talk to, I think F1 is a vacuum sometimes, and we all stay within our little bubbles, right? Colt LH over here, Maximus over here, Tifosi over here. And when you start to talk to different fan bases, the common denominators, right? They all say the same thing each and every single time. It's worries me, my driver is victimised. And they all can't be true, right? They all can't be true. Not concurrently, at least. So I don't know. I thought that was... He's jelly. Lewis got that Ferrari job. He might well be jealous though, VT. Little grey school. Johnny about Pers one Martin. Oh, it's very, very techie. Go on then. Let's talk to the second one that I wanted to address. Because it is techie. Miami is techie now. And F1 is in a very techie position. Because over the last 48, 24 hours even, since the Miami Grand Prix race weekend, I've had this feeling that F1 is doing itself a disservice ever so slightly. That F1 shouldn't be in Miami, should it? Like Miami, if it's going to be in Miami, then listen, my guy Wins has said this a gazillion times. Build a bloody track around which F1 cars can perform and do some of their best work. Because the Miami track is not that, right? I watched the onboard of Max Verstappen. And by the way, Max Verstappen's been very disparaging about some of these tracks, not least Las Vegas. Clown was the word mentioned. And again, over the radio yesterday, clown track, I think was the descriptor, the signifier even, per the three soon-to-be four-time champions. So catch this now on the Miami Grand Prix. It's not a great track, is it? Can we be honest? We were all grown up here. This isn't an F1 track. We have Sector 1, which is worthy, reminiscent of Beckett's and Maggott's, Silverstone settings, Turn 4, 5 and 6. That looks like F1. But thereafter, as far as Sector 2 and Sector 3, what are we doing really? Is this where we're going now? Are we that keen to sacrifice the purity of F1 at the altar of monetisation? Is that where we're going, Visual, with this? I don't think this is right. You know, I think really this is the 11th hour, DEFCON 1 settings. Because I don't think this works. The Miami Grand Prix as a track is not fit for purpose. Of course, it's got the glitz and the glam. Later on, when it's the Grand Prix, Martin Brundle's going to have a fantastic grid walk. There will be stars and Shaq will be there. And it's brilliant in that sense. From a monetization perspective, Liberty have nailed it in Miami. Miami's perfect. But if I allow me to put on my die-hard F1 purist cap for a second, from that perspective, this isn't great. I watched the onboard of Max Verstappen's pole a number of times this morning. Sector 1 is brilliant, proper F1 stuff. Sector 2 and Sector 3, I was left frustrated, I'll be honest with you. Just not fit for purpose. Going and then braking. It looked like a British touring car circuit. That's what it would be fit for purpose for. I'm not going to get the best out of these F1 cars around Miami. I'm just going to talk the truth. I don't think it's good enough. And I think Liberty Media at this point, if you survey the landscape and some of the feedback that the F1 community are giving, normally this is what you'd hear. Okay, so Max is dominant, but qualifying super interesting. There was stakes, there was reasons for me to watch. This time round though at Miami, the feedback has been quali was rubbish, the sport is dead, Max Verstappen's dominance is a problem. I think, family, guys and girls, that this is a massive tipping point. The Miami Grand Prix, we need to get back to Europe ASAP and Canada, some serious old school tracks, because people are losing the will to live out here. Miami Grand Prix. I hope desperately that Charles can mount a challenge. I really do hope that we get interest at the very least on lap 1, turn 1. Pincer movements from Sainz and Leclerc, but I doubt it. I doubt it. From a betting man, I suspect we're going to get much of it. It'll all be much ado about nothing. It'll be same. Another dominant victory from Max Verstappen around another street circuit that nobody cares about. And that is sad, guys. I want to go to Imola 2 visual. It would only be apropos given the 30th anniversary of Ayrton Senna's. Oh, Jay, the humanity, sir. It's techie. It's too techie. I think Brendo's matured a bit as well, little grey school, but I think he'll lean into the to the ignoramus. I don't know about this celebrity stuff. Who are you again? Because it makes for good TV. Go on then. And finally, I was listening to the press conference, the post-quali press conference, and a couple of things stood out to me. Firstly, Max fielding questions about the sport's popularity and growing in North America. When that question was pitched, I was like, Max isn't going to want to answer this. He doesn't care about this sort of stuff. What does Max business for? And Max pitched it. Max was the first one to pick up the mic and talk about growing the sport in America in a way that was enthusiastic and positive. I think somebody's had a word with him, you know. People now see Max Verstappen as the bastion at the forefront of F1. Ergo, that next one who's going to continue growing the market. Do you know what I mean? His paycheck, of course, is a function of F1's ability to grow, to steal attention dollars from other sports franchises. I thought that was interesting from Max, and in stark contrast to his demeanour and his comments about the Miami circuit, these guys are still experiencing massive deg problems. The tyres are super temperamental. Is it the softs or is option the mediums? Nobody knows. Pirelli need to do something, potentially go more aggressive with the compounds on the deg. It will be a one-stopper, a later up, but pretty much banked, almost definitively. It shall be a one-stopper around here later today, and I'm not sure does that bode well, really? A bit boring, isn't it? Just a bit boring, you know. So I don't know. It's chaos, Chris. The Max question was funny. He started as a default Max, but you can see him translated. Yeah, it's bonkers, Chris W. Properly bonkers. I never thought that Max would even. I didn't think that answering that question was in his locker. I don't know. Oh, but I digress. It's chaos, this. I don't mean to be negative. I'd go scorched earth on Mercedes, but I've done enough of that over the past 48 hours. Toto, the boy who cried wolf. They don't get it, do they? But I'll leave them alone. We'll talk Mercedes later on during the Grand Prix proper. But the press conference, another thing that stood out to me at the press conference was Carlos Sainz Jr. and the demeanour between him and Charles Leclerc. Fireworks incoming. I don't know whether it will be at the Miami Grand Prix necessarily, but fireworks are incoming 100% between the two. They do not like each other anymore. They are tolerating each other, whereas before they had a half decent relationship. I think that's also sated, you know. Could see them just turned away from each other. No eye contact. Charles Leclerc de facto answering the questions first. It's chaos. Oh, the humanity. It's going to be, I don't know. It's going to be, it will be interesting later on. I hope we get a bit of friction and a decent race. But bloody Miami Grand Prix, it's trolley train settings again each and every single time, isn't it? Like, what for? Like, I get why we're here. It's a rhetorical question for me to say it, for me to pitch it in that way. But, like, to what end, Liberty Media, really? Because I think we do have a problem. Like, I was talking to Windsor earlier on, and I looked underneath the comments of Peter's latest video, and normally people are roundly positive. And literally underneath it was like, oh my gosh, the sport is dying. I'm cancelling my subs. I was like, hold on. I thought that was us. It sounds like my guys talking, right? Everyone was like, oh, I can't watch this anymore. Peter Windsor's subscribers are normally quite upbeat and positive. There is reason to watch. Dial in. invest in the Max Verstappen excellence. You will miss it when he's gone from the sport, as an example. And it's all just getting very... F1 viewership is doing one of these. And again, I'm not going to go into the diatribe, but give us more reasons to watch than F1, Liberty Media, FIA, not less. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult. It's tough enough to wrangle with the sport at its least palatable moments. Don't give us additional reasons to be disincentivized. Surely more reasons, make it more exciting, give us more access to the F1 drivers, more content, put forth more storylines, talk about the history. Where was the Senna documentaries this week, as an example? Perfect opportunity to celebrate Senna document. I went back and started watching old BBC documentaries because I wanted to get some Senna content. And wanted to see some motorsport. Even, let me give you this, Jake. One of you guys were in the chat talking about Top Gear. I've been indulging Top Gear en masse, flicking back to some of the old great reviews, E60 M5. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I've been watching some of the golden oldies as far as Top Gear, because there is this area of my life as far as motorsport and cars. There is a massive empty box at the moment. That box would usually be ticked by F1 and all of the shenanigans and all of the competitive back and forth, but it's not ticking, is it? It's not mathing. I'm not getting that box ticked anymore, and I don't like it. I don't want to cover it. I don't want to do a transfer pricing and go and watch TikTok necessarily. I need that motorsport, that car box ticked. CBD subscribers are tired of Formula 1 and FIA games. It's just no longer good value for money. CBD, you've said it, mate. Oh, so negative, Cameron. Why do we always... But I feel like people criticise me for being negative, but I am simply a mirror at this point of F1 in real time now. Like, I can't be anything else. I can only talk to what it gives me. Americans love a V8. They would retain the audience. That's why Indy did at work. They aren't familiar with V10's visual. I think you make a good point. E60 M5 is a legendary car as well, visual. Do you remember the Top Gear review? There's 2 Top Gear reviews that... I'll tell you a quick story. This is you'll like this. Me and my missus went to Top Gear live. Like, we went to go and see an episode recorded. You know what, visual? I'm glad that we brought this up, because this is really, really pertinent. Now, let me tell you this story. So me and my missus, when we were at uni, got invited to Top Gear you could remember they used to film it in studio with like a live audience. So we got invited. I was like, oh my God, Top Gear. This is like, at the time, even now, the old Top Gear, not I love Chris Harris, but the old Top Gear with like Clarkson and May and Hammond. I was like, as fringe and as margin and techie as they could be, and xenophobic sometimes. That thing was like God tier. F1 really in 2024 could take a leaf from... Imagine if they hired Clarkson to do some reporting on F1. Some of the goatiest F1 pieces that you'll ever see are courtesy of old Top Gear, right? You remember the Lewis Hamilton piece with the MP44? Oh, chaos. Absolute chaos. So go on and let me tell you guys this story. Went to Dunsfold, Guildford. So just outside of London. So me and my missus drove up to Top Gear for filming, and you can dig it out. I can't remember I think there's the episode they reviewed the new 3 Series, and they reviewed the brand new at the time E60 M5. Cool. We didn't see the TV. Oh, sorry, the week later. So Clarkson was talking. He goes, at the end of the show, at the end of the filming, Clarkson was like, on the next show, E60 M5, our show, they talked about 3 Series and all these other boring sedans that nobody cares about. So I was like, oh my God, on the next show, they're going to E60 M5. So I need to tune in for that. So I grabbed Clarkson just before we left, and I said, Jeremy, talk to me about the M5, because the E39 iteration was like one of my favourite cars. Big E46 fan, big E92 fan also thereafter, but those came later, right? I said to him, Jeremy, tell me about, is the E60 what I think it will be? Tell me it's incredible. And he was like, mate, it is incredible. I shouldn't tell you this because the review's coming out next week, but the E60 M5 is a game changer of a car. Clarkson's words. I was like, right, let's go. I cannot wait for that review. So obviously the next week when Top Gear was coming out, I was like, glued. Watched each and every single second. I think the E60 M5 review was like 3/4 of that. They always like backload it, right? The best reviews would always be like middle to end. So you'd watch the bluster of like the first half where they'd be like playing golf with some smart cars or whatever. Then they get to the end, and then that's when the serious stuff will come out, the proper car reviews. So then remember, Clarkson's told me that this E60 M5 is like God tier. That's what he said to me in person. So I'm like, all right, then I can't wait. Let's go. E60 M5 settings. Like, I'm in. So then I'm watching the review. Some of you guys will remember this E60 M5 review that Clarkson put down. So I'm watching the review. It's like 8-9 minutes long. And at the start of it, Clarkson says, there's like this noddy music playing in the background. And he's like, the E60 M5 is ugly. It has weird lights. It has a dodgy sat-nav that won't shut up. And remember, he's in the car and he can't get the sat-nav to shut up. He's like, shut up, shut up, shut up. But then he ends it. He goes, you know what? He turns off the car because he can't. The sat-nav voice is doing him over. And he says the fuel consumption's rubbish. Doesn't look very good. It's ungainly. It's not very... So he spends like the first 6-7 minutes of the review of the E60 M5 Clarkson does just trashing the car. I'm like, hold on, there is a miss. But you lied to me, Jeremy. You said that the car was incredible, chap, and you're going to spend the whole review just slandering it, like cursing the car, like it's rubbish, it's heavy, the sat nav's annoying, the bloody eye control thing is rubbish. BMW have dropped the ball, and he goes to town on it. This Clarkson. So 6-7 minutes in, I'm like, what? I didn't have Clarkson. I know Clarkson's a bit of a joker, but I didn't have him down as a liar, and he'd lied to me. Like I felt betrayed. And then 7.5 minutes through the review, he says, "It's a rubbish car until you press this button." And he presses the button, and that's the button that gives you that tweaks the car from 400 to 500 horsepower. And he presses that button, and the classical music comes in, the overtures, and it's Beethoven, and then he's on open road, and he's like, as soon as you press that button, this car becomes the best car in the world. And then he spends the next 90 seconds telling you why the E60 M5 is one of the most brilliant cars that you will ever have the pleasure of driving. And that, ladies and gents, is the beauty of storytelling. He had me hooked. I was dialed into the story. I thought that he told me a lot. I had a why to watch. I'd had the conversation with Clarkson where he told me the car was incredible, and he spent the first 75% of his E60 M5 review slagging off the car. It was beautiful, brilliant story. Of all the Top Gear pieces, the one that I go back and watch most frequently, there's been some god tier ones, the Aventador, the P1s, the LaFerrari pieces, the AMG Black. Of all of the Top Gear pieces, the one that I go back and watch most regularly is, of course, the E60 M5. I just think it's god tier storytelling, the suspense. He spent the whole review building this picture, selling you a dummy that the E60 M5 is hogwash, to quote Amanda Nui. And then 90 seconds just subverting it. Once you press this button, it transforms the car, and it's brilliant. And I just think F1, I tell you that massive long soliloquy because I think F1 has a lot to learn, not just from Clarkson, but from the storytelling that made Top Gear so brilliant, right? Again, for the avoidance of doubt, a load of the best F1 stories have been told by Top Gear. You remember when Hammond jumped in the old Alonso Mild 7 Renault? It was incredible. Hammond driving an F1 car for the first time. And there's editing in there, of course, and it's, you know what I mean? They've embellished, but it's god tier. What, the F1 thinks it can just survive off Netflix's Drive to Survive series. 6 episodes of once a year. Behave. $1 billion industry. Each of those teams currently on the grid are worth $1 billion. Is that the best that we're going to get? You're telling me that Top Gear, mate, Steve A, you need to go back and watch that. Honestly, you might need to, if you want to watch that thing, they did 2 versions of it. The one that they showed live, the one that I'm talking about, you can get it on Daily Motion if you fancy. YouTube's version is a little bit, it's similar, but it's not as god tier. But definitely go and check that out. But I say all that to say that F1 keeps dropping the ball as far as its storytelling, right? Its visual was a beautiful car, wasn't it? I used to have the coat. I'll tell you guys this story actually, since we're storytelling. Like a man went into a bar. No, I used to work at a professional services company called Deloitte way back in the day, just after university. And once we went into a bar for like after work drinks, and a load of like pit crew rocked up. You could tell because from their attire, right, they had all the overalls and all this other chaos. And I just wanted to talk, as you do. Cameron F1 always talking too much. So I just had so many questions. I was like, are you guys really F1 engineers and pit crew? They were like, yeah. I was like, what are you doing here? I think there was a show run happening in London, maybe, and they were like passing through it. Anyway, whatever. So I had questions and I was pitching. I was like, okay, so tell me about who were the nice guys, genuinely? Because some of them appear really, really nice on camera, but I imagine some of them are winkers, right? And they mentioned a couple of names. I'll tell you that story another time. But I was like, who's the best driver? Tell me who the best driver is. And, to a man, and this was like 2007, maybe? 2006, 2007. So I asked them, who's the best driver on the grid? And to a man, there are about like, I want to say there are about like 10 of them around the table. To a man, everybody agreed that Alonso is the next generation talent currently on the grid. I was like, so what makes, I know he's good, but what makes him the very best? And they said, one of them told me this story about how his racing brain, and this chap had been on the grid a while, that Alonso's racing brain is unlike anything that he's ever come across. That in the race, in real time, he knows his splits in front and behind. He knows the strategy, plan A, plan B, plan C. He'll be pushing back. The constructive challenge happens in real time, that he's got so much bandwidth each and every single time that it's just, he said it's just bonkers. He doesn't know how the dude manages to juggle so many balls in real time. It's like, holy smoke, this is bonkers. Fernando Alonso is obviously the truth. And this was, again, remember, around the time when he just beat Michael Schumacher back to back, when Alonso was the real truth, the unadulterated truth. But I digress. I thought it'd be interesting to share those things with you, man. Fernando Plan Alonso. And again, just to loop the circle, the dude yesterday, you seen him in the pits laying additional rubber when he had the opportunity to make sure that their pit stops for today, that their getaway could be cleaner. Which one of those other buds on that grid, the other 19, including Verstappen and Lewis, have the capacity to thinking that way, to try and gain that upside? None of them. Fernando Plan Alonso is thinking in that different way, and maybe that's why he's giving out those interviews saying all of that very techie stuff. Maybe that's it. Maybe he's doing it deliberately with a view to apply some leverage to the FIA. Listen, look at me over here. I'm Spanish and I am a victim. Stop victimizing Spanish drivers. Why don't you give one of the Brits a penalty? That's what he's saying. And I don't hate it. I don't hate, as controversial as it is, leveraging that sort of terminology. Nationalism, nearly. I don't hate it, because ultimately it's Fernando Plan Alonso. And the grid, the sport of F1, if those are the terms in which we're having this conversation, the sport of F1 is by far richer for his presence. That, ladies and gents, is the truth. Drive to Survive needs to be one weekend. Absolutely, mate. They need to do it more. So Jake Miles 7 Renault is beautiful. But I digress, ladies and gents. We'll be back for the race later on. I'll be streaming at least 15 minutes before lights out. I might try and do T-30, but we'll see. Yet to be decided. But I digress. Prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.